The year is 1965. We've just seen a lovely British film called Help by these four fabulous lads called the Beatles. But don't worry, we're here to fix it. Good sir, hip hip.
Your accent's terrible. Cue the intro. Hello everybody, and welcome to the Mirror Movie Universe podcast. I'm Nate, one half of the hosts of this shindig of a show, and across the aisle, and not this time across the country from me, is my brother Dan.
What? Look at that, we're in the same room?
Careful, that's my bad shoulder.
Oh.
You're poking at it, man. Yeah, these are the dangers of podcasting in the same room, and we're braving that for you this time, because I've moved across the country, and I'm within marginal driving distance of you now. So we're gonna do this hopefully every once in a while. I don't know, but this time, we're gonna do it with help.
This is weird. I mean, it's fun, but it's a little weird.
It is a little weird, and that's the entire point of this movie. Help is a big part of our childhoods, I think.
Yep.
Got it from like Blockbuster or something. Recorded it off of a tape from the library. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
But it was something we watched a lot as kids, and it was probably my introduction to the Beatles as a band. But in order to talk about what we like and what we don't like and what needs to be fixed. Fixed about Help. We're gonna have to talk about what happens in Help.
Yeah.
So, Help is the second of three, well-known Beatles movies that released. They all released in conjunction with albums. You can see the list over my left shoulder here.
This one right here, Help.
It's that one right there, Help. The first one released as in conjunction with the album Hard Day's Night. And that was just like following the Beatles around on a day, and they were just like being silly.
It's like a pseudo-documentary kind of.
They're in a somewhat strange situation, but it's really just kind of getting them on screen as much as possible.
Yeah.
The third one is an animated feature about Yellow Submarine that I watched as a kid, and that's why I will never do acid. And
I thought the third one was Let It Be.
Oh, like the concert film, kind of?
Yeah,
I'm not counting like concert films. I'm talking about things with narrative. So there's an animated one about Yellow Submarine that's just very strange. And the second one is this one, Help, which is non-documentarian at all.
No.
And it is live action, but still surreal and strange. And that's some of the nice things about it.
It's an absurd British comedy.
Yeah. And so roughly the plot is that a crazy death cult that is sacrificing people once a day gives a ring to the sacrificee, and so that they can be slaughtered for this evil god thing. And Ringo Starr, the drummer for the Beatles, ends up with the ring on his finger, and he can't get it off. And so through the entire film, this evil, cult of sacrificing people is chasing after the Beatles, trying to get the ring off of Ringo's finger or kill him.
Right.
And they go through a bunch of antics. The Beatles are accosted, going to restaurants and skiing in the Alps. Eventually, they get the protection of Scotland Yard. They're attacked in Buckingham Palace. They record. All the while they're trying to make an album. They're trying to make the album Help. And they are accosted at Stonehenge. They're trying to record outside in this big field around Stonehenge with a line of tanks pointed out around them. And it's so strange. And they come under attack while the 1812 Overture plays. It's just very strange. Paul gets shrunken down to a 2-inch tall man. They go to the Bahamas for a while for no reason. It's just a lot of weird crap happens in this movie. And a lot of it is delightful. A lot of the jokes really, really land. And it ends with like a final showdown where they're about to sacrifice Ringo and the ring falls off. Also, there's an evil scientist after them.
Yes.
I forgot about that. Like, it's just like there's so much to remember about this
Because with
movie.
a ring like that, he could,
dare I say it, rule the world. Yeah, see? It is quite quotable. It's despite flaws that we will discuss, a pretty funny movie. And introduced me to the Beatles, as a matter of fact.
I think we might disagree quite a bit on this one.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Go. Go. What do you like?
Well, let me talk about what I like first,
right,
then we'll get into the rest of it. The biggest call out to like is the music. I mean, Help, first of all, the music on the album, which is featured in the film, is really good. This is the first time that George Harrison has written a song in a while for the Beatles. This is their 5th album, and John especially really comes into his own as a songwriter and starts writing more personal songs. Like
You've Got to Hide Your Love Away,
yes,
which is great, yeah.
And Help, the titular song, is about his struggle with depression.
Yeah.
And it's like very poppy and upbeat, which juxtaposes really well with the lyrics, which are so... Yes, just such an actual anguished cry for help from inside of them.
Yeah, but if your favorite part about the movie is the music, why not just listen to the album?
So the other thing that's great about this movie is credited with creating the first music videos. And that is my favorite part of the entire thing. So whenever they're going to do these songs, the first time they do it, they're like in a recording studio, and it's very kind of standard, like, oh, they're playing the music and they're not really playing it. But every time after that, it's just the Beatles having fun. And it is genuinely a joy to see. Yeah. They're skiing in the Alps and they're just screwing around. They're playing around in the Bahamas. They're doing all this stuff. I love that so much.
They're doing experimental stuff on film too. When they're in the Alps, there's like power lines going across the screen, and like notes show up on the like in between the power lines, like notes in sheet music, which is like, okay, yeah, that's cutesy. But in '65, that's that kind of like whack creativity has not been done before. So yeah.
And it is like a music video in that sense. It's not just the band playing, like we've seen that before.
In A Hard Day's Night.
Yeah. They're playing A Hard Day's Night or whatever. This is different, and it really is like the first time that you see these music videos. Yeah. And the music itself is fantastic. It's such a joy to watch these 4 friends be friends. Yeah. In those moments, like there's so much stories about the falling out and then the reconciliations and all of that. But at this point, they are just 4 great friends having a fantastic time together. It's my favorite part of the entire thing. Like that's
the camaraderie.
This is the camaraderie that you see on screen. It's great. You talk about technical stuff, and you mentioned Paul getting shrunk down. That's done really well. Again, for 1965, practical effects to make him look like he shrunk. They build this giant set with like a
giant shoes and a giant ashtray
and stuff. It's very cool to see that happen. Yeah, and very well done and stuff. So those are my big call outs for likes. What about you?
I like the I have a thing for British surrealist humor, and so does every other American that has ever seen Monty Python. Just like there's just something enjoyable about watching an episode of Monty Python's Flying Circus and laughing your butt off at a guy slapping another guy with a fish for 20 seconds. And Help is full of that. I would not be surprised if Help introduced the Beatles to the Monty Python guys, because they did know each other. George Harrison funded Monty Python's Life of Brian. Like, he produced it because they were friends. So, wouldn't be surprised at that. There are a lot of absurd visual and dialogue-based gags that really land. Like they have these flats in London, and they're all going into their own doors, right? And they're waving at their neighbors or whatever. And then the camera cuts to the inside, and there are no interior walls, and it's one giant flat. And they are all separated by color. George sits down on a bed and gives a gardener a coin. And the gardener, because there's grass on the floor of his bedroom, takes out a couple of clackety teeth and starts mowing the grass with it. John falls asleep in a pit. Paul goes down to the basement and rises up out of the floor with an organ with comic books on it. It's just... And Ringo's bedroom is just like a bunch of vending machines or something. And they never address it or explain it. It's just like normal. There's... God, what else is there? There's great gags, like when they're trying to get the ring off of his finger. like they're all in the bathroom together, and you see a hand flip a switch, and one of the hand dryers like starts like sucking everything in the room into it, and it like tears a sink off the wall, and then a lady walks up to that thing, pulls the lever, turns to the camera, and goes, "I am not what I seem." Hard cut back to the Beatles reacting to this. And, one of them says, my skin sucked right through to the skin. There's more here than meets the eye. And then they sarcastically laugh like, ho, 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 ho. Which is like, it's dry humor. But then captions come on the screen that says, everyone suddenly laughs at Ringo's apprehension. The absurdity is great. There's a gag in the middle of the movie where, for no reason, it's not even halfway through, it's not even at a big moment, it just goes, cuts, end of part 1, intermission, and then there's 5 seconds of the Beatles playing in a field, and then it says, end of intermission, part 2, and that's the rest of the movie. It's all the weird and whack stuff like that. There are many of them, and it informs the way that my brain works visually with comedy, because I call up a bunch of rapid pace stuff like that, and I really, really like it, and it's the brand of absurdity. The only other thing that comes to mind where I'm like, I really like this about Help, there's a scene where they are trying to go like somewhere in secret. They're going to the Bahamas or something. They're all dressed up in the airport. Yeah. They're all in the airport, and they're all dressed up like older versions of themselves. And it's 1965, so they're still all wearing like the classic Beatles haircuts. And they all pretty much look like they would in 10 years with the long hair and everything. And it's kind of prophetic, which I think is wonderful.
And everybody has a newspaper that says Beatles to Bahamas. Everyone knows where they're
going there. Yeah. There's absurdity all over the movie. There's a guy that hangs out of a blimp with a pair of feet on his hands that are soaked in red paint, and as he's hanging from this rope, he's stomping these feet on the ground to make a trail for no reason. There's I don't even know. I'd have to rewatch the movie, because like every time I rewatch it, which happens every few years, I'm like, A, this is racist. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yes, we will.
Yes, we will. And B, there are gags that I completely forgot about. I couldn't remember anything about the Paul on the floor bit until just now. I was like, oh yeah, the Paul gets shrunk down to like a 2-inch tall guy for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very strange, and I like strange humor. We should do UHF, because that reminds me of UHF. It's Weird Al's.
Yeah.
Weird Al's
movie.
Yeah. It's
if
the
you
kind
want to
of
see us do UHF, comment.
Yeah, but like it's the kind of just like stuff just happens, man.
Yes,
stuff just happens, and the stuff that's not racist that just happens is brilliant comedy. We'll address the second part now. Dan, what do you fix about Help?
Okay, so here's the thing. I disagree with a lot of what you're saying. I rewatched it the other day in preparation for this, and didn't laugh.
What?
At all. Like, it just didn't land for me, especially the spoken jokes. Like, oh, I'm soaked right through. My skin is soaked through to the skin. Like, okay,
that's funny.
It didn't hit me. And like when I was a kid, I thought, oh, this is really funny. Oh, this is really wacky. Yeah. This is whatever. But I was just sitting there like, it doesn't have that same staying power. And I think like the nostalgia is removed enough for me that I was watching it with fresh eyes, and so I was just like, yeah, it's not as funny as I once thought it was. You know, like some of the visual gags are well done. Some of them work really well. Some of them don't.
Some of the jokes I don't laugh at anymore because they're offensive, and I'm not 5 anymore, so I get that.
Yeah.
But that's not what you're talking about. You're just saying it's not funny.
I'm just saying it's not. Like this one might not. I don't know if you would call this one offensive, but when they're talking, they go to the Indian restaurant because they're trying to get information on
most of everything in that scene is offensive. Yes,
but they like at one point they're talking to somebody's feet because he's standing on his head, and they're just talking to his feet, and I was like, that's not racist. It's just not funny. I was just like, oh, okay,
yeah,
and I just kind of moved past it. It's okay. Comedy is different. Like, everybody reacts to comedy differently. That's all right.
Yeah.
I think, though, that it does say something about about how comedy evolves and changes, right? We point out in comedy what is absurd. And Norm Macdonald pointed out one time, like the Marx Brothers, he's like, I watch a Marx Brothers movie and I don't laugh. And he's like, they were the height of comedy at their time, like the pinnacle of comedy, and it's not funny anymore. Yeah. Like, we as society have moved past that. It's not, it doesn't have the same power, especially the spoken parts. And for me, I think this movie, especially the spoken jokes, I'm just like, oh, okay, like I get it. I get what you're trying to do there, but it doesn't land. The other thing that is tough, and this is my fix, is I can't fix the racism. I've tried. The audio mixing is quite bad.
No, I agree, and I watched this movie 1,000 times as a kid. There are, I swear, different takes of ADR because I remember it differently. So you probably watched it on streaming or something.
No, I got it from my local library.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
But I swear there are different takes of ADR because some of the lines I remember. You know how like you watch something a million times as a kid and you can hear it over and over again. Yeah. Swear it's different.
Yeah.
I swear some of it's different, and I swear the audio mix. Because I there's like a DVD copy on the back of a box in a closet somewhere in my apartment, and I watched it a couple of years ago, and I swear it was like, this isn't the same audio.
Yeah, and the ADR is not good. So they have to ADR it because the original audio wasn't usable, which is not good, and then the ADR is not good either. And so there are a bunch of times in this where I go, wait, what did he say? What did he say? Yeah. Which doesn't make the joke land at all.
Yeah. And you can't watch it with subtitles because the comedy only works at this quicker pace because it's very like
So my fix would be to get somebody to go back in, like so it's 1965. I'm watching this movie as a producer, and I'm just gonna get like a better audio engineer to go in and try to do more with the leveling,
which you should be able to get. It's the Beatles.
It's the Beatles. Like they pioneered recording, like all this awesome stuff with these 4-track recorders. Why can't you get a better sound engineer for their movie?
Yeah,
it's just mind blowing to me that the music sounds perfect.
Yeah.
And the audio and dialogue is, I'm like so straining to hear. I'm like, what? Yeah. What did he say?
Yeah.
Throughout the entire thing. So that's my very technical fix for this film.
I will accept your very technical fix for
Thank
this film. Because it does need work. It's not the most work that this movie needs.
How do you fix the racism? We should address it. There's an Indian cult. There are 0 Indian actors.
No.
It's all British people pretending to be them.
Yes.
Doing a very poor imitation of accents and culture.
Yes.
And so how do you fix that?
You just make it. You cut out the first part. Okay, so it's never explicitly. I mean, it's a British film made in 1965, and all they say is Eastern. They're talking about India, and it's stupid. You can, if you're fixing ADR, you can just remove all of those, references. There's a scene at the end where they are in like a temple or something like that is not Hinduism, but it's a 1965 British idea of Hinduism. Cut that scene, that's 2 minutes out. And then the first 3 minutes or so when they're in the temple, cut that scene, that's 2 minutes out. Then it's a nondescript, just weird group of people. And that almost plays better because there is a joke in the middle of the movie where they're talking to Scotland Yard about what they have to do to Ringo. And they're like, they have to paint him red before George says it. He's like, they have to paint him red before they kill him. It's a different religion than ours, I think. And if it's a completely nondescript religion and if it's a completely nondescript group of people, that joke is funny. That joke is not funny if it's just Hinduism with a coat of paint. And I can't, as much as funny as I find all of the visual absurdity of the gags. I despise the central plot of the film because of this thing specifically. So you cut out any references to India. There are not many. You'd probably have to kill the Indian restaurant in the middle, but there's not exposition that happens there. Not much. that exposition is repeated in the next scene after they sing "You've Got to Hide Your Love Away,"
right?
Which I always thought was weird anyway.
And you cut out one of the more racist jokes, which is where the guy goes, "Oh, I have to lie down," and he lies down
on a bed of nails.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, so you could just make it a very strange group of people.
Yeah, make it a cult. It's just a nondescript cult.
Make it a cult of mostly white people.
Yeah.
In London, and the movie is already absurd. Why do you have to explain away why they're trying to kill this guy?
Yeah.
Furthermore, there's another joke during the intermission part where I was talking about it, where there is a gal who's like getting paint scrubbed off of her by her mom.
Yeah, the original sacrificee who sent the ring to Ringo. Yeah.
Yeah, who is being talked to by her mom, who is very obviously British.
Yes.
And she's like, "You're at that temple again, eh? Now, I warned you about these people." And so that already plays like it's just a strange group of people. Because other than the references of it being like Eastern and like a couple of statues in the temple at the beginning of the end, it has no resemblance to Hinduism. And I think it would be relatively easy to cut the offensive out of it and just make it an absurd group of crazy people in London. But yeah, because it would save what I think is actually a pretty funny movie. Mm-hmm. Visual and absurd gags wise, a la Monty Python. Not any of the racist stuff, but a la Monty Python. I think all of that stuff is funny.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it one more time, internet. I'm not racist, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that works well, actually, because you're right. There's not a lot of references to India that you have to cut out. And I think you've identified the three main ones.
It's not even as bad as Temple of Doom, which is ironic because I'm sitting here and I have my two fixes in this chair so far right next to you have been racism specifically against Indian people. But anyway.
Look at that. That's what the internet needs, is two white guys solving racism.
Well, the internet needs two white guys fixing movies. And these two movies
need fixing in
this particular way. So,
that's right.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, internet, this is your chance to sound off. Type down in the little thing, like, comment, subscribe. If you like it, then like it. If you want to comment, please comment and subscribe so that you can see the next thing. What are we doing next?
I don't even know.
It'll be amazing though, because it always is. So thank you for joining us. We really hope that this finds you well.